Hello, 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 powerful people. Welcome to the three-part mini training series about debt. The good, the bad, and how to pay it off. I'm Millen, Livis, holistic financial independence mentor. I help people sort out their money problems so they don't struggle with money worries anymore. Today, in part one of this mini training, I'll talk about different kinds of debt. Before we begin today's mini training, a quick announcement. I plan to teach the More Money Masterclass on August 23rd to show you how you can have more money without stress and how you can spend more money without guilt. So if you often have more expenses than money, pay attention to the upcoming announcement about this free value-packed More Money Masterclass. Okay, back to our topic today. It's a great time for us to talk about that, considering the economic environment we're in and the old spending habits many people have, right? Besides, if you don't understand that, it's unlikely, very unlikely, that you will ever become rich. Debt has historically been a negative term, right? You know that. Many rich people use that as the lever for them to be even more rich, right? And yet this word that has a very negative connotation for many people. So that is a powerful tool that needs to be understood and handled carefully because it can help you accumulate financial wealth or wipe it out. Now, there are two kinds of debt, good debt and bad debt. Let's start with bad debt. Having high interest consumer debt, credit card debt, right? Consumer debt can be very dangerous and extremely stressful. Yet it is widespread and often even encouraged in our societies by credit card companies and banks. Here are some examples of bad debt. Banks agree to give you loans to buy some goodies, I don't know, furniture, maybe even a car or something like that, despite your poor credit rating, and charge you higher than current market interest rate to compensate for their risk, because obviously they take risk if you have a poor credit, right? So that's one example. Another example would be credit card companies allow, even encourage you to carry over balances, paying them high interest on those balances. They literally encourage. Sometimes people who pay off balances are not good customers for credit card companies. Another example of bad debt would be when colleges make arrangements for you to obtain student loans that will cover your all out of control tuition costs, right? They charge high tuition and they arrange that you will get a loan to pay it. Even though most jobs after college don't pay enough to pay off the college loans in a reasonable amount of time. So the bottom line is bad debt equal high risk, frustration, worries, and stress. Lenders don't do it for you, but rather to you. They don't lend you money because you are a good person, honest person, and because you deserve something. It's strictly business and a profitable one for them. Now, not all that is bad debt. So let's talk about good debt. Good debt is referred to as financial leverage. Leverage means borrowing money to invest in appreciating and or income producing assets in order to grow your wealth. While any debt involves risk, good debt is one of the levers that rich people use to create and grow wealth. I mentioned this earlier. So when you use financial leverage to create wealth, you incur good debt. So here are some examples of good debt. Buying a house in an economically growing area that you can afford. Another example, buying profitable rental properties that generate positive cash flow for you right away. Another example of good debt would be investing in your growing business or buying a profitable business, right? It's not necessarily building a business. Sometimes you buy business because, look, the reality is that you cannot have a business if you don't invest in it. Another example of good debt would be obtaining a reasonable student loan for a profession that requires formal education credentials, right? You cannot be a doctor if you don't have formal education credentials, and so all doctors have large student loans. One more example of good debt is investing in you, your health, and your education, because you are your most valuable and appreciating asset. All successful people invest in themselves, all of them. So, good debt equal risk, because any debt involves risk, but it also equal wealth, opportunities, and growth. Now, in many life situations, debt is unnecessary and often dangerous. It is unnecessary because there are often more gradual and less expensive ways to get what you want, right? It's dangerous. For example, if you want to buy a car, you don't have to buy a new car and get a loan. You can buy a used car until you have enough money to buy the car that you want. So it is dangerous because it often becomes a downward spiral that ruins your health, that ruins your relationships, and frankly, ruins your overall well-being, right? So it is a powerful tool that can be used with extreme care, okay? So what is the reasonable way to use financial leverage when you want to use it, when you want to buy something? Here's my take on use of good debt. How do you decide? When you borrow money to buy an asset, for example, a car, a house, a rental property, business, or stocks, make sure to ask yourself the following 3 questions. Question number 1, can I afford to pay it back? Very important question that many people don't ask. Question number 2, is a potential return on the borrowed money higher than the cost of borrowing it, so that the debt would pay for itself, right? That's what a lot of investors do when they borrow money to invest in an asset that yields income. They ask this question. And the third question is, what will happen if I'm wrong and will not be able to pay the debt service? Okay, so you've got to be prepared to answer this question. Remember the old Warren Buffett quote, never risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. And that concludes the part 1 of the mini training about debt. Again, we covered the different kinds of debt and the responsible way of using financial leverage, also known as good debt. Until we meet again, check out my mini trainings on YouTube channel. Here's the link. About combating inflation, about investing in the stock market and cryptocurrencies, and much, much more. And pay attention to the announcement about the new More Money Masterclass next week. And finally, join me next week, next Wednesday, for part 2 of the debt mini training, where I'll talk about 2 effective strategies for repaying debt to your health, wealth, and freedom.